There were 5 games on Tuesday. So let's talk about them. Let's recap a bunch of injury news as well, look at waiver wire trends, lines of the night, and let's hear from the one and only legend himself, Michael S. Bolton III. Michael?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed. The S stands for sexy.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd. I'm the baddie friend. Will you be one of my bad bitches? I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_Beeble, on TikTok at redrock_Beeble, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Also sign up at lockedondaily.com and you get a newsletter jam-packed with all of the goodness, absolutely stuffed to the brim for your favorite team, lockedondaily.com. And double bang this video. I think we want to do it. We want to hit 90K. 90K subs is in play. The annexation of Canada will save those poor, unfortunate souls. We'll do it. We're just going to get to 90K. That is my pledge to you. Pledge not valid in Canada. Let's talk about the games. Let's talk about Tuesday's action. 5 of them on NBA Cup action at its finest. Let's go through some of the news that we did get, though. And the list is building, isn't it? Old Chris Jericho over to the side here, writing these things down of teams that allow players to re-enter games with injuries, only for them to be injured the next day, is growing. It is growing a lot. Demetrius Morant returned. He copped a knock on the knee, sat on the bench. He played through it, of course. He said, I'm fine. And he is out tomorrow. Good for him. What are we actually doing here? I'm not saying that him coming back into the game necessarily aggravated it further. It may not have. I've got no idea. But if it's bad enough that he has to sit a game 2 days later, then maybe he shouldn't have come back in. Don't know. This, of course, reopens the Scottie Pippen door. But remember, when Smart and Morant were out, for that last 2 weeks, Pippen was not even a top 100 player. I think it opens up a little bit more stream for Jake LaRavia. DeMar DeRozan, the back injury has flared up again, so he is out tomorrow. So does that savor Kevin Huerter? I wouldn't want to savor Kevin Huerter ever. And with 14 games, and I'm not that interested in what he is going to do there. We also got the update on Joel Embiid, and it's, I guess it's an update. It's bad, but I think I see these updates and I go, yeah, okay, makes sense. Because this is how I felt for months. It's why I said I do not think you should draft him. I wouldn't touch him in the first round at all. Because the multiple meniscus surgeries has an incredibly high failure rate. It's what roots you. You're done with these multiple things. We've seen it with so many players. And Embiid just tries to do anything and his knee swells up. So he's out on Wednesday and he's going to miss more time. He is going to miss more time. Yabusele and Drummond are going to fill those minutes. I don't think they're must rosters. But this is terrible. I will say it once again. For everyone out the back, I would not trade for Joel Embiid in any league. I wouldn't trade for him at all. We also got the Donovan Clingan news. I alluded to this yesterday, saying that I think you need to grab Rob Williams because there is something that we need to be paying attention to, and this is where we are. A grade 2 MCL sprain, which the Blazers said that they will reevaluate in 2 weeks. It is not a 2-week injury. I don't care that they're reevaluating. They'll reevaluate him in 2 weeks. And still got a bit to go, hey? That's what we're at. We're talking about a gigantic man with a grade 2, not a grade 1, a grade 2 MCL sprain who is, 21 years of age, who already had that significant foot problem in college. It's bad news for Klinger, but there is zero reason for them to push him back early. You can hold him in IL if you want, but what this means, I know Rob Williams is out with a concussion, but Ayton and Williams are going to have to play a lot here. That is why you roster Rob Williams. Because Klingan, this is the word that I got, that there was going to be news that was more than just a 1-game absence for Don Klingan. And this to me is a 4-week minimum, maybe 6-week injury. Maybe. And we got the update, which I talked about earlier on, about the Trae Young getting fined for his alleged non-injury, which of course he's been dealing with all season, and the NBA's independent doctor decided that he could have played, which I think is a terrible thing. And I know there's going to be, man, these players, they're paid $50 million. They've got to play. To me, that's honestly not the point. It's not the point here. The slippery slope, which I hate that term, right? But the problem here is like the NBA telling a team that your injury designation of this guy not playing is like, we're deeming it false. What are you doing here? Your doctors and your player and your team aren't the arbiters of who can play and when they can play, which is I think a terrible way to go. It leads you to so many decisions that can create problems and re-injuries. Or what if this happens and now the Hawks don't sit Trey in other games and he actually pings the Achilles and it's gone? What happens then? Right? We already saw Joel Embiid play through injuries because of media pylon about how soft he was for not playing through obviously degenerative knee problem. I mean, we saw him get hurt and miss most of last season. And now, career, honestly, like basically not done, but high level Embiid done. I'd say done. That's where the problem is. And then the issue that you get with this is there will be arguments put out about Trae Young and this injury thing, saying that the NBA is like, sending a message that they want the players to be playing and they need to be out there, and they send this message. To me, this is actually the opposite. It sends the opposite message, because I can almost guarantee you, right? I can almost guarantee you that not a single person in the entire world, Hawks fans, Celtics fans, casual NBA fans, was thinking about an NBA Cup game where Dyson Daniels cooked the Celtics back 2 weeks ago and go, man, but why wasn't Trae Young there? Nobody was thinking that, ever. But bringing this up now to say, actually, Hawks, you were lying. Your doctors are wrong. Our doctor was right. He could have played. That actually makes the problem worse. If you think you've got this perception problem of these players not playing through injuries, you coming out and saying this makes the problem worse. It does, because now everyone's going to go, is the team lying? Should the NBA bring their other doctors in to examine and provide the thing? Much like when they said the NBA put that study out saying that back-to-backs don't actually cause more injuries, when if you actually dive into the study, all it says was we don't know actually whether it does or not. We haven't actually tested this properly. It was a terrible study. And the results they drew from it were completely flawed and just had nothing, just weren't rooted in reality. Right? Well, we've determined load management doesn't work. Well, that's not what the study said, at all. But that was what was put out there. And I get the feeling there's this thing, but highlighting this problem, which is not even as much of a problem as people think it is, bringing this up from 2 weeks ago makes the problem worse. It is not a single person cared about this or thought about it at all, ever. Nothing happened. And now, all of this focus is onto this. It is insane that they would do that. It is absolutely, I think, I won't say reprehensible, but I think it's embarrassing. It's dangerous. And the precedent it sets is really bad. And I know you're going to say, just I want them to play. Ignore that part of it, right? Ignore that part of it. Nobody cared about this. Not a single person worried about this injury. It didn't impact a single thing. The Hawks won. And now you've got someone overseeing them saying, no, our doctor said, actually, you're fine. Go and play. And now we're bringing it up so that every decision a team makes, people question it even more. That's bad for perception. That is what is bad for perception. And that is what I hate about it. So, yeah, again, I know people are going to argue about it, and that's okay. You can argue about it, but I want you to really take those points on board. This makes the problem larger. It doesn't make it smaller. And there is that dangerous precedent. It's a very dangerous precedent. Very. Incredibly. Of course, they ignore the fact that they instituted these rules to make the players play because they're also soft, that everybody was injured in the playoffs last season. Ignore that fact. Don't worry about that. No, fires me up. Cam Thomas is out with a back problem, which actually was a back and now it's a hamstring after old mate Jordy Fernandez says, I think he was just tired yesterday. Yeah, tired of having an injured hamstring, I guess, Jordy. I don't know whether this is an ongoing thing, but he had the back problem for a few days. Copped a couple of falls, and now it's a hamstring tightness. You have got to be worried about that. But what I would do, and I would consider, and I did this in a couple of leagues after I saw both him and Cam Johnson go down. Johnson's questionable. I would, I added Jalen Wilson, and I considered Zaire Williams. Not that I'll necessarily play them on Wednesday, but just a lot of guys on the injury report, some weird things happening. This might be a lingerer for Cam Thomas. I'd be interested in just in some spots where you've got the ability. Like I dropped a Zach Ricochet because I just think he's bad, right? He's not doing anything good. So just try to Jalen Wilson, and I'll just see where it goes. I'll see where it goes, and that's where I sit with that. Because I talked about all these updates for a long time and then, probably ranted too much about the Trae Young thing, which I apologize. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the waiver wire trends and the 5 games from Wednesday. That is all coming up. But before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by all mates over at Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you do not need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and the perks that are usually reserved for the high society. Now, if you're a resourceful individual, you can use Robinhood Gold and earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Yes, FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle all of that NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers, if you go on there and place a $5 bet, win your first $5 bet, they will give you $150 in bonus bucks. They don't call it bonus bucks, do they? Do they? Bonus bets. Bonus bets is what they call it. Bonus bets into your account when you win that first $5 bet. And the FanDuel Sportsbook app is set out so beautifully. Such a great experience that when you're placing your live bets on the NFL, the live stats, they're there on the same page. The live play-by-play, it is there on the same page. You don't have to scrounge around. You don't have to go get your missus to come across with your second phone. Can you open up another app so I can see the live stats, Dale? She goes, do your bloody self. And you go, okay, cool. Don't worry about it anymore because you're here on FanDuel. You're opening up the app and it's all there in that one spot. So go to FanDuel.com today and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right. Let's talk waiver wire trends. Let's have a look at who's been added, who's been dropped. I don't think it's a particularly insightful list as I pump up the content of my own show. So great. Don't ignore this. It's terrible. Let's just take a look at what actually did happen over the last 48 hours. The most added player over the last 48 hours is the pencil. Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. We all know why. He'd been playing really, really well, and at the time of me recording this intro to the show, I don't have the results of that game, so I can't tell you if it was a bad move or a good move. But I'm going to go ahead and say it was probably a bad move because it's Harrison Barnes, and I sort of know how this story ends. But I do get it. Actually, you know what? It's not a bad move because there's only 5 games on. You take flyers on the starters and see what happens. Long term? Nah, absolutely not. What about old Dollop himself? Ty Jerome, the man has been absolutely cooking. Is there any chance of that sticking? Of course there is not. He leads the NBA in 3-point percentage for qualified shooters. He leads it at 56%. And if there's one thing that we know, that he's just not going to hold. I do not care who you are. I sound like Liam Neeson. Ty Jerome does not have that particular set of skills to be able to shoot 56% from 3. It just is not a thing. Actually, I lie. He's at 54%. My bad. Second on that list, the artist formerly known as Torian Prince at 53. Third, Nikola Jokic at 53. All of these numbers are going to drop 10, 12, 15 percentage points. A lot. So yeah, add him. I get it. And the other thing with him, that is that there is no Levert, no Strus, no Wade next game. So there will be extra dollops available. But long term, I don't see it. Moussa Diabate, one of the most added players. Miles Bridges is out again. So is BDNR. So is Mark Williams. If you don't know who BDNR is, it's Nick Richards. They're all still out. So we roll with Diabate. You might get 3 points in a week from him. Literally in a week. But you'll get 30 rebounds and 5 blocks and 3 steals. He is worth it for the short term. Category leagues over points leagues for sure. But there's a little bit of extra stuff there. And the fourth one is the Flamin' Galar, Isaiah Stewart. Alfie's been putting up good numbers, splitting minutes with the passport legend Jalen Duren. And I don't believe that the block rate, he's had average 4 blocks in the last 2 games. I don't think that's going to hold, but his block rate is significantly up this season. He's playing pretty well. He's playing better than Duren on most nights. I don't know that he's a must roster, and I probably wouldn't be using him tomorrow anyway if I started him, but I don't hate that as an ad. Malcolm Brogdon, that makes sense to use him today. I think they play again on Saturday, which will be useful as well, but long-term that's not going to work. And then Najee Marshall, with the absence of everyone yesterday, Klay Thompson and Quentin Grimes, they're all still questionable, those guys, and no Luka. Marshall's doing quite a bit and enough to be at least streamable, and that's that's a W in a lot of cases. The most dropped players. Number 1 is Grant Williams. He's done for the year. Bub Carrington, I still like Bub a lot, but the volume is not quite there, and that makes a lot of sense. Fanderpants, see you later. Although if you wanted to stream, and you don't because there's 14 games, you could consider that with DeRozan out. Zach Ricochet got absolutely jacked off.
Get that garbage out of here.
See you later, my guy. Dorian Finney-Smith has been injured. You move on from him, and then Quentin Grimes also. Yep, these are not guys to waste our time holding. Let's talk games. First one. My Chicago Bulls, led by my GOAT, Nikola Vucevic, they get the win over the Washington Wizards easily. Of course, it's against the Wizards, who are, terrible. Easy win for the Bulls, and the Bulls are also terrible, by the way. They're just not quite as bad as the Wizards. 127-108. Let's talk about Vuce, who played 29 minutes. He had 19, 12, and 4. And the thing with Vuce is, right, and I know what you're going to say, and I honestly don't care, but you need to accept this fact. Everything that Vuce is doing, rebound rate, usage is actually down. Minutes are down. Block rate's a little bit higher. Not a huge amount, a little bit higher. It's all just coming down to the fact that he just is hitting shots at insane numbers. And I want to try and figure out what it was. Was it that no DeMar DeRozan was there? Now, that has actually dropped his usage, which is something that I thought would happen. But his openness rating from three-point land, exactly the same as last season. He's in the 96th percentile versus 95th.5 last season. Like, exactly the same. His openness around the rim, where he's 4 or 5 percentage points up, the same. He's just hitting like 60% of shots from mid-range and 48% from 3. That is the difference here, and that is making Vooch look awesome. And he was awesome again. 64% shooting. He didn't attempt a single free throw, of course, and he had no defensive stats with 19 and 12. But I fail to believe that Vooch is going to roll the season at 68 true shooting. I just don't believe it. And that is why I'll continue to say it is going to fall away, because minutes are down. Usage is down. All this stuff is down. He just hits every shot. And that is the one that I think is going to fall away. We also got Talen Horton-Tucker having 13 points in 16 minutes. Cool. He had a steal and a block. He shot 83%. I think he might get 0 minutes tomorrow because Lonzo Ball returns. At least in this game, Horton-Tucker was not the reason they lost. They actually won the game. And to be fair to him, his plus-minus has actually been okay this season. I still think he's terrible and shouldn't be playing. Josh Giddey, 11, 4, and 8. That's a very Giddey line apart from the bad field goals. No, you know what? This season, that is a Josh Giddey line. Bad field goals. But it's solid enough to hold. Well, DeSumo, I don't know about him. He is a guy that I've been down on all through his career. The end of last season, he started playing 1 million minutes and looked way better. Went, okay, well, maybe he is developing, but he's just literally gone back to being the same player. And I think a lot of the things that we're seeing this season as well is that the last... We've got to throw out, I think, a lot of the post-All-Star break numbers because A, it's a small sample, but B, there are a lot of teams who are fielding lineups that contain 5 Quentin Jacksons. And that really allows some teams to cook. And I think that might have been a Dosunmu problem last season or a Dosunmu cause last season. For now, while Pat Williams is out, like he's marginal, and then I don't know where we go from there. Not a great night from Levine. He had 18 on 43%, while Kobe White was really good. 8 rebounds for Kobe with 5 threes, 21 points in his 31 minutes as they smashed him. Buzzalis went from 29 minutes down to 17 as Julian Phillips got the playing time. I thought we might be leaning a little bit more into Matas, but I guess not. On to the Washington Wizards, and the positive thing here from the Wizards' point of view is definitely the play of Alex Sarr. The number 2 overall pick has played 31 minutes in back-to-back games. He had 20 and 7, 4 threes, steal, block, 64%. Now, I don't believe that he's going to be this shooter, but he's been shooting like 34% all season. Exaggerated number. Actually might be close to real. I don't know. The fact that the minutes are up and the shots are going in is a gigantic W, and if he is on any single waiver wire, Alex Sarr is a must-roster player. Easy. What this also means, though, is that Jonas Valanciunas is just not doing anything. 4 points, 14 minutes. And I know there'll be people who want to do this. They'll be saying, I'm going to hold Valanciunas because the Lakers will trade for him. Will they? I can't think of anything worse than a Valanciunas AD pairing in the front court. And teams could have signed this guy at any point. He is on an $11 million contract that he signed to be a backup for the NBA's worst team. I don't imagine that teams are giving up a lot to get JV in, who can still score at times, but the reason that he played limited minutes for the Pelicans and he's playing limited minutes here on this team and he didn't have a big market in the offseason is because he's not that good anymore. He struggles at a lot of different things, and he can still put up the numbers if the minutes are there, but a team that wants to be good probably doesn't want to give him those minutes. And obviously a team that wants to be bad also doesn't want to give him those minutes. He's sort of stuck in no man's land. I don't think you need to hold on to Valanciunas. You can. I don't think you have to. Better game from Kyle Kuzma. Again, when you play the Bulls, it is a little bit easier. 23-7 with 2 steals for Kuz, and still just absolutely abominable percentages. While Brogdon was, again, doing enough, which is frustrating. I wish he'd either do a lot or a little. He had 15, 6, and 4 in 23 minutes, and Bubbles Carrington had 10, 3, and 4 with 2 steals. That's a really good line from Bub, but I don't believe that a rookie point guard coming off the bench playing 25 minutes is a must-roster player. I just don't want to do that. Keyshawn George started with Jordan Poole out. He played 31 minutes. He had 7 points on 27%. Much like Bub, I think George is going to have value. We've already seen it. But until we get guys out of there, Brogdon and Kuzma, I don't think it's coming to fruition. And it's a real lean patch at the moment here for Bilal Coulibaly. We are really... it's not good, is it, at the moment? Bilal has now dropped outside the top 100 for points leagues. He had 8 points on 27%. Remember, the early season form was fueled by, I think, 90% finishing at the rim. And usage was up. And now we're in that zone where it's not happening. 27% shooting. He had 5 assists, but he is now outside the top 150 over the last 2 weeks. And I do believe that we hold him, but that early season breakout has been significantly muted. I think that's probably it for this game. Yeah, I think that's probably it. We've got 4 more games to talk about. We'll come back. We'll do that. But today's episode is also brought to you by Built. Yes, Built. Renters. Listen up. I was going to swear, but I don't know if Built wants me to do that, but that's okay. When you are renting, get Built, because you know what it does? It just gives you those rewards. You will do things in other areas, shopping, groceries, whatever, and you'll get rewards. You use your reward card, you build them up, you get a little thing here, you get a little thing there, but paying rent, that's not something that's really been done before. With Built, there's no cost to join, and when you're a member, you will earn valuable points on rent and your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even ones that aren't your favorite, in fact, the ones that you haven't even heard of. Over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world, which you can redeem your Built points towards. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences the Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, why? Why not? Why not's probably a better question. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That is joinbilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA to start earning points on your rent payments today. Every time I look at the schedule and I go to record a show, and it's on a short day like this, I go, yeah, it's all right, it'll be a short show. And then my brain goes, Josh, you can let yourself cook on these ones. And it ends up blowing out anyway. Do you legends want to join me for the next game? Let's head across. It is the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. And there's just something a little bit funny. There's something I find a little bit funny about certain things. And the Miami Heat is one of those teams. And maybe it's just I've had passionate arguments / disagreements with a bunch of their fans in the past, especially around the Damian Lillard trade and the whole Heat culture and all that sort of stuff, right? And they get pretty aggressive about it, and that's okay. They defend their team. But I find it incredibly humorous. The Schadenfreude, which I don't know if this is the correct use of that term, but I think it is. To see a game where Milwaukee goes into Miami, a healthy Miami, beats them 106-103, without Giannis. Damian Lillard goes off, and the prize of the rejected Damian Lillard package, Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic, combined for 2 points in 13 minutes. It's just a little bit funny. It's just a little bit funny, and I'm sure Heat fans don't find it funny, but I reckon 29 other fan bases might. It's just a little bit funny to me. There was no Giannis, who was on the injury report as probable, got downgraded to questionable, then basically immediately after that got listed as out, which is not a great sign because they don't even play tomorrow. Right now they got 2 games in 7 days. I wonder if the NBA's independent doctor will come in and say, no, Giannis could have played on an NBA Cup day. I wonder if that'll happen. Interesting. Lillard was great here. Also, by the way, I didn't mention this. Chris Middleton update. It looks like he'll be back. They got 2 games the next 7 days. I think he might play the next one or maybe the one after. And it is going to be really annoying. Without question annoying. 24 minutes a night, back-to-backs rested. But by the time you get to February, I think you might be actually rolling as a top 70 player. But whether you can stomach that, whether you can ride the waves, whether you can buffet the storm, as I use the metaphors that come freely to me, I don't know. You can answer that by looking at your team, your standings, your other injury scenarios. Lillard, 38 minutes, 37, 3 and 12, 8 threes, 1 steal, 1 block, elite percentages. That is a very, very, very good game. They didn't start Bob Portis in place of Giannis. In fact, they started AJ Green. Greeny had 9 points in 28 minutes with 3 threes and 43%. I think some of that may have been the Heat's lineups choices as well, but also maybe the fact that Portis isn't very good. Is that possible? Yes, it's very, very possible. Portis has been bad. 18 minutes, 11 and 6 on 33%. He got his shots up, but I've been sort of edging around this idea for a little bit. It's not even an idea. But they've got 2 games now, next 7 nights. It's a really barren part of the schedule. And the only reason you would hold Portis, I'm guessing, is for an injury to Giannis or Lopez. And we got one. And he still did nothing. I'm not telling you to go and do this, but I think you have that long and hard discussion about whether you jack Bobby Portis.
Get that garbage out of here!
He just seems washed, unfortunately. Brookie Lopez, 13 points with 3 threes and 3 blocks. Really good game for him. And Andre Jackson, nice block during the game. He had 9 rebounds. He's only a deeper league guy. We also had the exhumation of Pat Connaughton. He had 10 points in 21 minutes with 2 blocks. I don't think we need to look at that too much, nor do we look at Taurean Prince, who had 10 in 31, because Middleton's going to come back, and it's not going to matter for most of these players. What about Gary Trent, who'd been looking good? Gary's stepping up. He's looking great. 2 points on 11%, and that is Gary Trent, isn't it? He did have 3 steals, but what is Gary Trent? He is a hit or miss, feast or famine steals guy. He's a 3-point streamer that might play 29 minutes. He might play 23 minutes, and now Middleton's coming back, and he is only a stream guy for a day like this. And you know that on days like this, if you stream him in, he's probably going to kick you in the dick. It just is what Gary Trent does, and it's what Gary Trent has done for a very, 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 very long time, unfortunately, for people who roster Gary Trent. On the Heat side of things, they ran the same starting lineup out there again, and that meant that Terry Rozier, who returned, came off the bench, and it looked pretty dire for Terry. He looked pretty bad. And in the end, if you just looked at the stat line, you go, what are you talking about, Josh? He scored 17 points. That is why digging in is way more important. Because he did score 17 points, that's true. That's a really good 17 points for Terry Rozier, who's been bad. But the man played 21 minutes, including a lot of the fourth quarter. And to get to 17 points, he had to shoot 78%, 7 of 9. And he added 0 assists with 3 rebounds. I am actually way more concerned about this game than I am encouraged. It's good that he was able to have that little scoring burst. But 21 minutes, 78%, terrible sign. I would not drop based on it, because it could be that, he looked really good now, and the fourth quarter gave Spo the confidence to play him more, and that is distinctly possible. Or he plays a 24-minute bench role. I will hold for a few more games, but I am not encouraged. Hero had 18, 5 and 5 on some poor shooting. His shooting continues to come back to the pack, which is always relatively predictable. And then Bam had 16, 5 and 5. And his shooting's been horrendous this season, but he was able to put up a good one here. Jimmy Butler was fine, 23, 4 and 5, but a 0-0. It was just great that he actually hit his free throws in large volume. His free throw volume is insane the last 3 games. I think he's averaging 14 attempts per game over the last 3, which is obviously a ridiculous number. Let's now talk Jaime Jaquez, the man that I'll never forget this clip. I don't know why this one will always burn in my head. When I was listening to a Bill Simmons podcast, and it was in like middle of or end of maybe Thanksgiving last season. And they were talking about a redraft of the draft. And they were like, Wemby obviously goes at 1, but Jaime Jaquez is probably 2 or 3. And I had to stop the podcast. I had to go do a screen recording of it, and I put my face there on a TikTok. Are we actually serious? That you would have him at what? And of course, I got a lot of crap for that. Jaime's dominating. You guys, he's great. Yep. He's not, actually. 2 points in 14 minutes on 2 shot attempts. And he is very much out of favor. Much like Little Chungus, who played 0 minutes. Or Haywood Highsmith, who played 14 minutes after starting. This is what happens with Spoelstra. Love the guy as a coach. The ingredients he's got to cook with are pretty rancid, to be fair. But there's just too much uncertainty with so many of these guys. Like Duncan Robinson had 11, 5 and 5 in 31 minutes. If you go 31 minutes, Duncan Robinson, I'm a little bit intrigued. But I'm not going to be, because I just don't know how to balance this with everyone shuffling every game. Pal Larson played 22 minutes. He had 8, 4 and 3. And he's sort of in favor with Spoelstra. But with him playing well, that means that Jaquez plays. Oh yeah, by the way, I didn't say it, but like Jaime Jaquez.
Get that garbage out of here.
Yeah, we're not sticking with that. I actually just had to stop the recording next. I wanted to check something because I've been saying Mr. Larson's name, but Pelle. But I hear a lot of podcasts, people just calling him Pal Larson. Okay, am I wrong? Or is it the children who are out of touch? No, I'm right. So, cool. It's Pelle. It's not Pele. It's Pelle. Pelle Larson. Which sounds like Pele if you're putting it together, but it's not Pal. All right, I'm glad I was right on that. I'm glad I got that sorted. Pelle Larson, who is in that rotation there, and I'm sure there'll be a Scandinavian person listening to this, a Swedish person who will go, "You're actually wrong, Josh. It's close to this," and I will accept that. I do want to hear from you if I said that wrong, but at least assure me that it's not Pal rhymes with Bal. It's surely not. It's not. It's Pelle. Yeah, look, he's producing some okay numbers, but it's got to be just deeper league stuff there for Larson. Josh Richardson, Tom Bryant, Nikola Jovic, all out of the rotation. We actually got 9 minutes from Superman, Khalil Ware. I wish we get a little bit more from him, but it just is we're a long way from that happening. I want it, but we don't always get what we want. Let's go to the next one. It is the Houston Rockets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, an overtime game, 117-111. And before I give you the definitive decision, the definitive take on Jalen Green, I just want to put this part out here. I know that he was sick. I know that he was questionable heading into this game. I know that. But I think he just might be bad. He'll have some hot streaks, absolutely. He'll go and order whatever he wants. What do you get, like the spaghetti from Jollibee or what's the drink called? Now, don't give me. I'm not going to research this. Am I Mallow? Is that right? Something like that. Oh, I feel like I'm wrong. But anyway, he sucks. He has had a 4-game sample to begin this year, the 10-game sample at the end of last season, and he played 23 minutes for 9 points on 33%. And still, I'm not sure that I would drop him. But to be honest, it's probably the right call because it is as clear, as absolutely apparent as dog's balls that Amen Thompson's better. It is clear. Amen played 38 minutes. He had 15-8 with 4 steals, 3 blocks, 67% shooting. I think Jalen's just bad. Honestly, I do. And I was okay with him in like the 90 range and that sort of area. I thought, we'll do a little bit more, but man, he is just bad. And those early games when he was getting all of the usage and Alperen Şengün wasn't, was like, I feel like I'm not remembering that correctly. And every year when you watch NBA games, and again, I'm sidetracking everything here, so I apologize. When you go back to look at the first week of the season, of every season, you go, was this coach all right? What's going on? Like we have our predictions and we see something happening. And the first week, things are just completely wild. You go, this makes no sense. And then in 2 weeks' time, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe Şengün should do it and not Green. Speaking of Şengün, 42 minutes, 22, 10, 11, 3 steals, 3 blocks. If only it wasn't 39%, it would be an absolute monster. In fact, stay tuned. He might be the monstrous line of the night. We don't know yet. But he was great. Yeah, just in case you're wondering, Amen Thompson, must roster. Also, Tari Eason, must roster despite this being a very bad game. He missed all 5 of his shots. He had 18 minutes with 2 steals and a block. I love Tari. I think he is a very good player. He's a defensive menace. He's still got the defensive stats. But again, when you come off the bench, there is the inconsistency. There is the floor which gets lowered because you come off the bench. And when someone like Jabari Smith has a better game, 19 and 7, 3 threes and 2 blocks, and then you have a stinker, well, you're just going to do nothing. And that is exactly what happened to old mate Tari here. Hold him. What you do with Jabari, though, I don't know. Like, he's obviously been playing better the last few games. And this illustrates the skill set. 19-7, 3 threes, 2 blocks. That is where you go, man, that's what we wanted. When you were drafted, this is the promise that you gave us, Azor High. We thought we'd get that. We just didn't get it ever, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Fred VanVleet, 27, 8, and 11. 40% shooting on 25 shots. That's a lot of shots for Fred, man. But after a shaky start, to be fair, he's coming around and sort of giving us close enough to where we want it to be. Reed Shepherd also, 9 minutes, 0 points. The Minnesota side of this equation is interesting. The Rockets do win at 117-111. Not sure if I mentioned this. The Wolves ran the same lineup again. Still no Mike Conley, so Dante DiVincenzo started. And Dante DiVincenzo, I believe, is dealing with a back problem. And for his sake, I hope that's what it is. Because the man is bad at the moment. He sucks. 21 minutes, 3 points. He played 21 minutes as the starting point guard. I was very sour on DiVincenzo in comparison to consensus. Very sour. But even I didn't think this was real. Like, this is terrible. 3 points, 3 assists, 21 minutes. I've got to think there's something else going on here. And there'll be someone who thinks this, and maybe you're going to go type it before you do. Let me say this. Be like, he's just disappointed. He was playing with all his mates, and then he got traded away. The report was he actually hated the fact that he got marginalized by those trades and he was being pushed into a smaller role and he was happy to be leaving. So it's very hard, I think, to ascribe fantasy performance, real life performance, ups or downs to psychological factors when you've never been inside the man's head, Giggity. We don't know, and I don't like to do any of that stuff. All I know is he's shithouse, and unfortunately, Jack Armstrong...
Get that garbage out of here!
Yeah, he sucks. Let's talk positive, though. Well, we'll talk Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who played more, 30 minutes, 13 and 2, which is okay, but took 86% shooting to get there. I wouldn't get overexcited, and I know people are going to get overexcited about Robert Dillingham, and understandably, he played well. He was a key part in what they did in this game. He was an incredible plus 26. Taylor Horton-Tucker could never. 12 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 threes. Now, he is a rookie point guard who shot 39% from the field and Mike Conley was out. I think that this performance gives Dillingham an opening to be in the rotation, but at whose expense? Alexander Walker, DiVincenzo, Conley, Edwards... I definitely would not rush to add Dillingham. Now, I had Rob and Reed and Ron Holland as 2, 3, and 4 are in the same tier in my dynasty rankings, understanding that this class is way lower than previous years and way lower than coming years. So I do like Rob long term, but I wouldn't use this as an indication that we've got a grab right now. I don't think that's happening. It was good to see the Wizard of Naz Reid, step it up. He'd been down lately, 19 and 7 with 3 threes and 2 steals, and Randall had 21 and 6, and Gobert had 5 and 6. Now, let's also talk about Anthony Edwards, because 29 and 10 rebounds is great, but 36% shooting. Yuck. He's also been shooting, prior to this game, 44% from 3, which I do not think is going to hold, and in this one, he was at 25% on 12 attempts. So, a lot of what he is doing, which has been good, still not probably equivalent to where he was drafted, is on the back of some 3-point numbers, which I don't think are going to hold. So while we can have this idea that actually he's been pretty good and he's been solid, he's still only 24th in points leagues. And I actually think we might be getting some worse performances come. This isn't a bad performance by any stretch. It's a lot of numbers. The 3 blocks are great. But there is still, I think, some more regression hitting. It'd be very easy for me to say Jaden McDaniels is back to being terrible because 9 points on 25% shooting is clearly terrible. But let me frame it this way for you. He'd been putting up some good numbers. He got 40 minutes, which in the past had been a problem. They'd play him like 29, 30 minutes. In the past, he'd be a 13 usage player. He had 17 usage. I'm not saying he played well, but he shot 25%. 4 of 16. Let's say he goes 7 of 16. Still not a good number. Then if he has 7 of 16, it's 15, 5, and 2 with a steal and a 3, and you go, actually, it's really good. I like it. Let's keep going. 25% is not a real number. He's not going to stick at that number. It's the minutes upping, the usage upping, which I'm more interested in. So honestly, I will give him a little bit of a pass there. It's easy to look at a player that we've shit on for a long time and be like, yeah, like he sucks. He's bad at fantasy, blah, blah, and see a bad game that is fueled by shooting, which is not a realistic indicator of things moving forward, and be like, okay, he's bad again, see you later. Which, for Patrick Williams, is easy to do. In this one, though, I just think it is a little bit easier to look at that and go, okay, hit 2 shots and then go 13, 5, and 2 with a steal. And you go, I don't mind it. It's okay. It's not the greatest. It's okay. But Dawson has been better. And yes, I meant to call him Dawson, if you remember that nickname, which didn't quite catch on, but maybe we'll bring it back a few weeks ago. Jaden McDaniels has been better, and I'm not, like, I'm way more encouraged by this game from McDaniels than I would be for DiVincenzo. Because, yeah, it's not looking good for Dante at the moment. All right, let's go on to the next game here, the San Antonio Spurs and the Utah Jazz. The Spurs were able to roll out the same lineup, and they win 128-115. Devin Vassell is set to return tomorrow. Jeremy Sohan remains out. Wemby had 34 points. He had 7 rebounds. He had 6 threes. He had a steal. He had 1 block. Over the last 2 weeks per game, Wemby's better than Jokic, by the way, just in case you were checking on that. And you wanted to shit on how bad it would have been to pick Wemby at 1. Over the last 2 weeks, he has been better. We'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, I think if you took him at 2, you'll be okay. Chris Paul, only the 23 minutes here in this one, but still 14 points, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block. And Keldon Johnson returned. He played 12 minutes. We do not We do not need to roster Keldon Johnson. Now, he's coming back from a hamstring injury. Maybe he shouldn't have played. Who knows?
Get that garbage out of here.
Thanks, Jack. But, yeah. Very good scoring game from Steph Castle. A weird one. He took 20 shots. Him and Wemby 20 each. And nobody else over 10. He had 23, 3, and 5. That's a very good game from Castle. He was bad at the line. He is playing well at the moment. Is he a must-roster guy? I think you probably want him on your roster. But, again, let's be serious with it. He's 174th in points leagues for the year. He's 147th in 31 minutes for category leagues over the last 2 weeks. And Vassell will cut into that somewhat. But this is a very good game. It's a very good game. And you should have him for now. It was also a very good game from Bubbles. Julian Champagny had 15 and 4. He had 4 threes. He had 3 steals. And he's also a guy that we roster for now, along with Castle. And we move on later on if we need to. We had 22 Blake Wesley minutes for some reason. We had 11, 3, and 4 from him. He's been better this season, but not something we really need to pay massive attention to. And wouldn't you know it, you're going to be shocked. Get ready. The pencil. Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. He had 8 points on 33% shooting on 6 attempts. But, to be fair to the man, 8 rebounds and 6 assists. You'll never get that from him again. You do not need to roster Barnes outside of streaming on days like this. That is all. You don't hold him. You move on. Let's get on with our lives and do something different. He was okay, but he was never going to continue that ridiculous run that he had. And honestly, that's all great and all. And we could talk about Castle and we could talk about all that sort of stuff. But the takeaways from this game aren't on that side. It's about the Jazz, who did run in with the same starting lineup. There was no Jordan Clarkson in this one. Kyle Filipowski was still not allowed to play. And then at the end of the game, Larry Markkanen got hurt. He banged his knee and had to be helped off the court. I don't believe that it's a significant ACL or MCL or anything like that. It's got the chance to be like a bone bruise or anything like that. But given where this team is, given Larry Markkanen and his size and his importance, there is zero shot he's playing tomorrow. Zero, not playing. This is a minimum 1 week injury to me from a non-doctor, long-term, long-distance view. This is a week minimum. It's probably 2 to 3, and I avoided this man like the absolute plague in draft season. And it's been worse than I thought because I just thought we wouldn't get him in March. And now we're not getting him now. Back problems, knee problems. 14 and 8, shooting problems. He's sucked, honestly. This means more, though, for John Collins to prove me wrong. He's already proven me wrong. He'll just keep rubbing it in, the big fella. 20 and 13 with a block, 70% shooting. He's going to have to keep doing a lot. And what do you know? I'm going to just skip past Collins because it embarrasses me. No, it doesn't. I know where I went wrong on that, and I know why. And he's cooking, and he's probably going to keep it up, I guess, to a degree. But what about Keontae George? One of the many, many lists of things that I talk about is high usage point guard in high minute role you should probably persist with. Now, this man has stunk all year. But we had 26, 3, and 6 from Keontae George, 6 threes and 2 steals on 56%. And honestly, I was watching the game. I fell to my knees in a Walmart. That's how excited I was. I thanked everybody. I don't know whether it holds. I got no idea. But we're getting there. He's 115th in points leagues for the season. He is 109th in category leagues over the last 2 weeks. And we're getting there. And the thing that you look at here is the confidence somewhat, basically still remains in him. And that's what you want. With Lowry out, and I haven't really covered this. Lowry's out. Filipowski's out. Clarkson's out. Now, Filipowski will probably come back, and if you've got stash ability, not a bad guy just to see what happens because he's going to have to play. Now, I don't think Collins, Kessler, and Filipowski can all play together, though. That's the problem. And Cody Williams, bad. Even if he starts, bad. Bryce Sensabaugh, you have to open your eye a little bit. Now, I think he's also probably not a good player at this point, but 16 points in 27 minutes. He hit 4 threes. He had a steal. He had no rebounds and no assists. Shout out to Jordan Clarkson. But someone's going to have to do something here. And it might be him. Just as I'm recording this, it is absolutely pissing down here. It is raining sideways out my window. Oh, what on earth is going on? Anyway, Colin Sexton only played 23 minutes here. He had 20 points, and his minutes continue to be a continual source of frustration. Man played like 40 minutes last game, and now 22. I cannot get a handle on it. I've got no idea what they're going to do game. And this is a game with no Clarkson. And he still played 23 minutes. 20 points with 5 assists. I like Will Hardy as a coach, but I cannot understand what goes on here. Isaiah Collier played 10, and old mate ESPN legend Johnny Juzhang played 23. Of course he did. 3 points on 17% for Juzhang, but if Markkanen misses and Clarkson remains out, Juzhang's going to play. So deeper leagues will need to pay attention there. We also only got 23 minutes of Walker Kessler. 8% usage, 6 and 7 with 2 blocks. He continues to be like annoying to roster. You still got to do it, but it remains an annoying situation there in Utah. Now, I know. Something was happening on the box score that I was reading that had some of the numbers off. Now, I put the box score up for you guys to look at because it's an easier to digest format. I have a different box score that I have that has fantasy values, fantasy points. It's got last 5 games, last 2 weeks, full season, short-term projections, all these sort of things, which is incredibly difficult to read as a presentation thing. So I'm reading off that. But for some reason, our provider at Basketball Monster has some of the numbers and minutes off. So I said some things that were incorrect. Colin Sexton did actually play 31 minutes, so I apologize for that. Yeah, Collier got to 17 minutes, and I talked Chris Paul's minutes I said were low, and Keldon Johnson's were low. They're actually way higher. So the numbers you were seeing on the screen were correct. The stats that I was reading out were correct, but the minutes that I mentioned were wrong. So again, I apologize for that. But yeah, that was what I was dealing with, and I thought it seems a little weird, but I didn't even click that there was something off with that box score. So I do apologize once again. Let's go on to the final game of the night now, the 5th game of the day. The Lakers spanked by the Suns 127-100 to the final score there, and that was another bad game from Dalton Knecht. Let's start with him, because he was the rage. And he had 7 points in 19 minutes, shot 29% with no assists, no steals, and no blocks. And I added him in lots of spots. And guess what I'll be doing now?
Get that garbage out of here.
This is the problem. I don't think that he's a very good player, and I don't think he'll ever become this superstar that people might think. And that is okay. We can have differing opinions. But the overall thing with his fantasy game is he is a shooter that required big minutes, big usage, and absolutely elite shooting percentages. And he's not getting big minutes, he's not getting big usage, and he's not an elite shooter. He'll be better than this. I'm very confident of that because, again, the guys in front of him are Cam Reddish and Rui Hachimura, who are also not very good because this Lakers roster, again, sorry to spoil it for you, that's not good either. But Knecht is a volume... He's DeAndre Hunter. He's a volume scorer who needs elite shooting to provide value. We saw it happen for a little run and we got on top of it, and I actually got 2 to 3 really good games out of him. And now I'm done. See you later. Davis had 25, 15, and 5, 1 steal, 4 blocks. That's elite, clearly. LeBron, 18, 8, and 10. Pretty good. Bad field goals, but good otherwise. And Austin Reeves was on the buy low show earlier today. I still think there's more that he can do here. 15, 3, and 2 with 2 steals. It's not a terrible game, but I do think that he's better than this. And I am okay with us moving on from D'Lo. Now, he had 16 points. A lot of garbage time stuff. He played, I think, the final 5 minutes of the game. 16, 3, and 4 on 39%. So don't get overly fooled by that. Rui Hachimura, why is this man still rostered? He is rostered in 12-team leagues, and I will not understand it.
Get that garbage out of here.
7 points in 23 minutes while Reddish went scoreless, but he did have 2 steals. He is a steals streamer only. Late in the game, Jackson Hayes sprained his ankle, the other ankle. He just missed 2 weeks with a left ankle sprain. He sprained his right ankle in this one. So Christian Coloco back in for a run of being a backup center for who knows how long. They play tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure we won't see old mate Hazy in that one. On the Phoenix side, they welcomed back Kevin Durant. They welcomed back Bradley Beal. And they didn't have to play very much at all. 30 minutes for Durant, 23, 6, and 2. 27 minutes for Beal, 23, 2, and 2. Elite shooting, they cooked the Lakers. Devin Booker also, 26, 2, and 10. Just amazing stuff. With those guys back, Tyus Jones' production dropped, predictably. 8 points with 6 assists, but somehow he buffeted that with 5 steals. We always knew that Jones' numbers would drop when those guys return, and it did, and that's okay. I think you can feel okay moving on from a Royce O'Neal. He had 9 and 9 in 24 minutes. He moves back to being a 12-team stream guy. I wish he just had done more when those guys were out. Unfortunately, it didn't come to pass. And a solid Nurkic game. Now, I think there are people who'll be like, yeah, Nurkic always gets cooked by AD, whatever. I think a lot of these individual matchups, part of the reason, again, absolute drive-by out of nowhere, why I hate the sleeper format, is because these one-game things are so random. There's no predictability. You're acting like you know better than it takes the randomness out of it. It just makes everything random. You don't know what's going to happen on an individual game basis. You've got literally no idea. We like to look at larger samples to get ideas, but the stuff can vary so wildly. So Nurkic was good here, but doesn't mean he's always going to be good. 12 and 12 in 27 minutes, and Grayson Allen continues to be absolutely jack-offable.
Get that garbage out of here.
10 points in 23 minutes. That's the games. They are done. We should head in now and should we do the Monstrous Line of the Night? That would be a pretty good thing to do, I think, at this point. So let's go and give it out, the Monstrous Line of the Night. There were a few contenders, as there usually are, but today we go with Damian Lillard, who had 37 points. He had 12 assists. He went 8 of 13 from 3. He was great against the Miami Heat. The waiver wire line of the night, the best performer that's available in the majority of leagues is Buble. Julian Champagny, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3 steals. We'll see what happens when Vassell's back tomorrow, but he has been very, very good with the players out. The young gun of the night, of course, it's a Spurs player. It's Victor Wembanyama, who is, cooking again. 34 and 7 with 3 blocks and 6 of 14 from 3. Another absolutely elite performance with the dud of the night. We're going to head to Minnesota. The big ragu, Dante DiVincenzo. 3 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists. He stinks, and if you wanted to drop him, I think it's totally a reasonable decision to do that. Let's take a look at the top 6 performers from the day. We'll start with the top 6 category league players. You already know who number 1 is. It was Damian Lillard, but close behind him, very close, was the delicate dancer, Alperen Şengün, followed by Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, and Fred VanVleet. Your top 6 waiver wire players, Julian Champagny, followed by Dylan Brooks, Stephon Castle, and unbelievably, I cannot believe I'm going to say this, number 4 on the list was Talen Horton-Tucker. Something must be wrong. I think we had a storm here. Maybe that was it. Royce O'Neal next and Malcolm Brogdon. We're not adding Horton-Tucker. Champagny, yes. Brooks, Streamer. Castle, yes. Royce, no. Brogdon, probably. Your top 6 Yahoo Points League players today was Şengün, Davis, Lillard, Wembanyama, VanVleet, and Anthony Davis. And your top 6 ESPN points producers was Lillard at number 1, followed by Şengün, Wembanyama, Davis, VanVleet, and Devin Booker. Before we head out of here, let's take a look at some in-game injuries. There's only one here that really is important, I think, and that's Lauri Markkanen late in the game with the knee issue. Filipowski maybe is the ad, but again, I don't know how much Collins, Filipowski, and Kessler can all play, and Filipowski is also injured. I would think they try a sensible or maybe back to Cody Williams, but their stocks of small forwards, it's invisible. There's nobody there. So it'll be very... They went with Cody Williams last time, and it didn't really work out, and he's in the G League, so we'll see what they do. Kevin Love left the game with back spasms, and that meant that, I didn't even mention that, Khalil Ware had to play 10 minutes. Tom Bryant seems to be behind Ware, but that doesn't mean that'll always be the case. That is just deeper league stuff. And then very late in that game, Jackson Hayes with the ankle, meaning that Christian Koloko is going to have to step back into a role. And that is it. Again, that was just an incredibly long show, and I don't know why it went for so long, so I do apologize for that. Hopefully you got something good out of it. Hopefully you found something positive. If you did, you know what? Maybe I want to hear something good today. So leave it in the comments. But you also, I know that you did something good. All right, and let's do the positives. Let's focus on the good things. Let's try and see the good in ourselves and in each other, but let's see the good in ourselves, because you know what? We need that reassurance. I need it. You need it. And let's do it. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.